Welcome to No Filter Cricket, and today we are going to speak about the aftermath of what happened after the Johnny Bairstow incident. So, as we all know, that the Johnny Bairstow call it run-out stumping by Alex Carey has not only created massive outrage at Lords, but in the English cricket community, in the world cricket community, it has brought two prime ministers together to headbutt, which is Rishi Sunak and the Australian PM. So things are not great. Even the use of body line by Pat Cummins is being questioned. I did a small take yesterday where I took a stand, the rare ones that I do, where I said I think it was against the spirit of the game. So I've copped a lot of abuse on YouTube. Of course, I've got views too. So I was told by my co-promoter that leave it at that, don't take it personally. So I'll not try and take it personally. But I have got two very good bodies on this show together. Today, my very close friend C.S. Luthra is here, who smiles and then takes the mickey out of you. And then there is Sandeep Mishra, who again needs no introduction, a terrific sports journalist, sports editor. So these two gentlemen are here to promise us a very good time. And I'm quite sure, since I've said that I stand by the spirit of the game, there will be a lot of counterattacks and bouncers. So let's open the show without any further ado. CS, the first take is yours. What was your take on the Bairstow incident?
Well, in Jeffrey Boycott's words, it was rubbish, complete rubbish. And you can't expect this kind of thing on the field. And look at how he got out. If you play that thing, go back and watch it on. He went back, he touched the bat inside the crease, and then he started walking out. Why to get this kind of out? Obviously, it was a tough game for both the teams. Yes, the way BenStokes was playing, and if Johnny Bairstow could have stayed there for half an hour, game would have gone other way. But again, even if it is so harsh competitive, or whatever atmosphere there was there, but I think this was against the spirit of the game. But we know Ashish, we know Australians. We know the old series where Anil Kumble called them. Nobody played. They didn't play in the spirit of the game. We know the Sydney Gate. So this all has happened, and we have witnessed that. Sorry.
Okay, CS, you get your breath back. I'm to Sandeep. So Sandeep, when we are talking about the spirit of the game, I personally know your views, and they're pretty harsh and against certainly the stand that I have taken. So the first point is that CS also takes a similar stand that I did, that it is against the spirit of the game. But let's come to the game and some of the important voices. So quite a few former captains like Michael Vaughan, Andrew Strauss, as well as Nasir Hussain, all said that it is not against the spirit of the game. It was perfectly fine and there are no issues. But again, the British media is strongly divided, and they've really taken the mickey out of the Aussies. It came to such a stance that in the long room at Lords, and one hardly ever would expect such an incident to happen. The way some of the MCC members heckled the Aussies, called them cheats, booed them. Things came to such a pass that Usman Khwaja and David Warner almost came to blows. There were verbal altercations inside the long room. Unprecedented.
Yeah, but the point that you're making, that the media was divided, I think one needs to really look at the makeup of the English media as such. It's very, very clear. I mean, Nasser does write a column for the Daily Mail, and he made it very clear that this was extremely stupid. You need to understand there's a crease, you got to be in the crease. Now you just have to come back to three of these important players: Nasser, Strauss, Michael Vaughan. All of these extremely good batters, extremely good captains. They've done England a lot of good when they were out there, and extremely good commentators. So there needs to be some element of truth coming from these three across the three media that they write. The rest of the media, when you really look into it, is almost like an Aussie media or the American media, where you compare a New York Post with the New York Times. You may find a balanced piece in the New York Times, but you may not find that in the New York Post. And the similar goes with the Sun, the Daily Mail, and all of that. So the tabloidish bit was, of course, gunning for Australia, which they would. At the end of the day, you still need to sell a match, you still need to sell newspapers, you still need to have Fox in Australia busy with their headlines and bring this out. But for me, yes, you may feel a little, that feel probably for me as a person, as a journalist, as a fan, probably lasted for around 30, 40 seconds. But by then, I decided that rules are rules at the end of the day, and you need to go by them. Yes, there are plentiful examples that can be given. And when we were talking, I think before this, I gave a very classic example of this was a football example rather, 2014, and I still remember the date, April 27th, simply because I'm a huge Mourinho fan. And it was Chelsea versus Liverpool, Liverpool leading by 5 points with 3 matches to go in the EPL. And just after the break, you had Steven Gerrard standing out there, the captain Brendan Rodgers on the line, all expecting that even if this ended 0-0 or if Liverpool wins, the title is theirs. But what happens at that point was that Gerrard slips. He loses the ball. There's a collective gasp that goes across Anfield, and Dembele just barges in, takes the ball and scores. Now, just imagine, spirit of the game, he slipped. It wasn't his fault, rather. It was probably something on the pitch. Dembele would have gone there and then probably put the ball over the line and said that, okay, fine, in the spirit of the game, Liverpool leading by 5 points, I don't want to play by the rules. I'll play by the spirit of the game. He didn't. He scored. Eventually, Chelsea won 2-0. Man City came from behind to win the title. Liverpool were out. So how do you value all of these things when it comes to international sport? But I pick up Shekhar's point very, very clearly. This is the Ashes. So there's a little more stuff happening out there. There's Australia, who are now regularly called cheats. So all of that comes in. England desperate that baseball is really not happening. And 1-0 down, they're staring at 2-0. So something needs to break. And probably this is what happened there. And I think everybody
Okay, so
went crazy.
I'll come back to something needs to break, and you were saying, also speaking about the fact that the Ashes has its own competition, its own competitive spirit. CS, मैं आपके पास इस पॉइंट को लेके आना चाहता हूँ कि जो मैंने खुद देखा लॉर्ड्स के लॉन्ग रूम में, और जिस हिसाब से एमसीसी मेंबर्स ने बू किया ऑजी प्लेयर्स को, वो एक अजीब शर्मनाक किस्म का हादसा था. और उसके वीडियोस भी सर्कुलेट हुए हैं, जोर जोर से चिल्ला रहे हैं चीट्स, एंड इट इज इनसाइड द लॉन्ग रूम. सबको पता है कि वो फ्रेज इस्तेमाल होता है लॉर्ड्स के लॉन्ग रूम के लिए, हैलोड पोर्टल्स. तो इस लेवल पे जब चीजें खराब हो जाती हैं तो क्या इम्पैक्ट उस सीरीज पे होगा? I think there is a problem with CS. Sandeep, would you like to answer that?
Could you come back again on that?
I was basically, I asked about the importance of the long room and the way the Lord's long room is spoken about, the respect and the grace, the decency that is shown to players, the way they applaud, all of it fell apart completely when they started booing the Aussie players who were walking in. The altercation between Khwaja and the MCC members, also the same was happening with David Warner. It is a sudden dip. It's a huge dip.
I think probably the only cricket stadium in the world where players need to really go through where the members are and then go off to their dressing rooms. But at the end of the day, if you really look at this incident, or you divide this whole incident into parts, I think this was one that was jarring, the long room one. These are the very people who create the rules. These are the very people who are supposed to abide by it. These are the very people who sit and think about cricket. These are what we call are the thinkers sitting there watching cricket, being members of such a long-standing club. And to see this coming from there was probably more jarring than what happened on the pitch, to be very honest. I think they've probably suspended 3 people out there, 3 members rather. But I really don't know going forward, how can you change something like this? Because this is just not an ordinary series. This is so closely fought, and there's so much of history behind it, like Shekhar was just pointing it out, that I think a lot of this happens, and this is probably carrying on. I mean, just look at the way Steve Smith is being booed and jeered, all of that happening out there. So I think the MCC part was probably a little more jarring than what really happened between Alex Carey and Bairstow.
ओके संदीप, सीएस आप से मैंने बेसिकली ये पूछा था, आपकी लाइन में थोड़ी प्रॉब्लम हो गई थी कि जिस हिसाब से अपने दर्शकों को ये समझाइए कि लॉन्ग रूम वाला इंसिडेंट जिसके वीडियोस हम सब ने देखे, जिस तरीके से हैकल किया गया ऑजी प्लेयर्स को, उनको बू किया गया, उनको चीट कहा गया, शेम ऑन यू, यहाँ तक कि कुछ पर्सनल रिमार्क्स पास किए गए जिसमें उस्मान ख्वाजा भड़क उठे, डेविड वार्नर भड़क उठे। क्या मतलब खास तौर से ये एक्सपेक्टेशन था ही नहीं कि लॉर्ड्स के लॉन्ग रूम में ये हश्र होगा?
वेल, संदीप वाज राइट कि ये लोग वो हैं जो रूल्स को बनाते हैं, ये लोग वो हैं जिन्होंने राज किया क्रिकेट पे। बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली फॉर लास्ट 1 decade or so, they are not the ones who are actually ruling the game और पूरा जिनका कंट्रोल है। अब अगर आप देखें टेक्निकल कमेटीज के हेड्स, कभी सौरव गांगुली होते हैं, कभी अनिल कुंबले या बाकी की कंट्रीज के, तो अब हम लोगों की भी चलनी शुरू हो गई है। मेरा ये मानना ये गलत था, ये डिसीजन गलत था। ये मतलब कि ऐसा नहीं, पैट कमिंस को बोलना चाहिए था, नो ही शुड हैव टेकन बैक दैट अपील। लेकिन डिस्पाइट दैट इट्स ए हार्ड फॉट गेम। ये सीरीज ऐसी नहीं है कि जिसमें आप बहुत की बात, अगर लास्ट सीरीज है, मे बी पैट कमिंस की भी लास्ट सीरीज हो सकती है। स्मिथ है, कई ऐसे प्लेयर्स हैं जो शायद लास्ट एशेज भी खेल सकते हैं, और हो सकता है एक आधा और भी कोई खेल ले, लेकिन डेविड वार्नर जैसे कई प्लेयर्स जाने वाले हैं, उनके लिए स्टेक्स बहुत हाई हैं, वो कभी हार कर नहीं जाना चाहेंगे। एंड स्पेशली इन इंग्लैंड जिस तरह का एटमॉस्फेयर है, जो बाज गेम की बात कर रहे हैं, बाज बॉल और ये सब कुछ, जो जिस बैकग्राउंड में सीरीज शुरू हुई है, इसमें जो भी जीतेगा देखिए वो सिकंदर माना जाएगा। और मुझे लगता है कि अभी तो ये शुरुआत है। इफ यू रिमेम्बर दैट मंकी गेट इन सिडनी, उसके बाद कैसा क्या खेल हुआ था, उसके बाद आपने हर तरह के अब्यूजेस भी देखे थे, एरोप्लेन भी खड़ा कर दिया गया था एडिलेड में, आई रिमेम्बर, और ऐसा लग रहा था कि टीम, हमारी इंडियन टीम वापस आ जाएगी। लेकिन ये सब कुछ एक पार्ट एंड पार्सल है, और ये कहीं ना कहीं आपका मार्केटिंग भी करता है आपकी गेम का। ये मत भूलिए कि ये कई कुछ चीजें ना स्टेज भी आजकल हो जाती है, जितना आप कंट्रोवर्शियल बना देंगे उतने ज्यादा बिकेगा ये चीज। ये खेल ऐसा हो गया है, यहाँ पर जो 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 मार्केट है बहुत ज्यादा वास्ट मार्केट है। और तीसरी चीज ये कभी मत भूलिए कि गेम ऑफ स्पिरिट पे कभी नहीं खेली जाती। अगर ऐसा होता तो लॉर्ड्स के इसी लॉन्ग रूम में ये लोग कहीं ना कहीं क्रिकेट को ऐसे बिकने ना देते जिस तरह से बिकती है। सो क्रिकेट बहुत चेंज हो गई है, आईपीएल ने चेंज कर दिया, लेकिन इंग्लिश और ऑस्ट्रेलियन प्लेयर्स आज भी ऐसे हैं जो शायद अपनी कंट्री को तरजीह देते हैं रादर देन आईपीएल और अदर फ्रीलांस लीग्स। बट ओवरऑल वेस्ट इंडीज की हालत देखिए, बाकी टीमों की हालत देखिए, किस तरह से स्ट्रगल करते हुए निकल रहे हैं। रादर क्रिकेट बढ़ने की जगह सिमट गई है, अब करीब करीब 4 से 5 कंट्रीज में सिमट गई है, जो कि 9 कंट्रीज की टीम होती थी। तो उस लिहाज से आप देखिए क्रिकेट में ये अभी ये होगा, अभी अगले मैचेस में और ज्यादा होगा, आप देखिएगा। अभी आपको अब्यूजेस फील्ड पे भी दिखेगा, और जिस स्पिरिट में शायद अंदर खेला जा रहा था अब वैसा नहीं होगा।
CS, there was also an incident when Dhoni recalled Ian Bell, and India went on to lose that match by about 319 runs, if I remember correctly. And what exactly happened was that Dhoni, the batter, drove the ball, and it almost reached the boundary line. Pawan Kumar was the fielder; he threw it back. Bowler was Ishant, and Dhoni chucked it at the non-striker's end, and the fielder just took the bails off because the batsman had sauntered out. So there was a lot of booing against the Indian team, and when they went in for a break right afterwards and came out, so Dhoni had reversed his decision. The point I'm coming to you, CS, is that there were quite a few comments on the YouTube on the take that I had done where I referred to this, that if Dhoni could have recalled, why not Pat Cummins? But there were quite a few who said, नहीं धोनी तो बड़ा एरोगेंट है, धोनी कौन होता है किसी को बुलाने वाला, और ऐसी इस टाइप के कमेंट्स हैं, तो इस पे आप क्या रिएक्ट करेंगे?
देखिए इट्स हीट ऑफ द मोमेंट। अगर आप क्रिकेट खेलते हैं, अगर आप क्रिकेट को क्लोजली वॉच करते हैं, इट इज दैट फर्स्ट फ्यू 3 और 4 सेकेंड्स जब आप रिकॉल करते हैं या नहीं करते हैं। इट इज लाइक टेकिंग ए रिव्यू ऑफ ए गेम। आपको 15 सेकेंड्स होते हैं, आपने क्या कर दिया। वंस यू स्टिक टू योर डिसीजन, आपने नहीं किया रिकॉल, इट्स ओवर, मैन, गेम गोज ऑन। और दैट्स द वे। आई रिमेम्बर आपने ये बात की, मुझे आई रिमेम्बर दैट गुंडप्पा विश्वनाथ ओनली कैप्टन इंडिया इन 1 गेम, एंड उस गेम में उन्होंने टेलर को, जो विकेट कीपर थे इंग्लैंड के, उनको वापस बुला लिया था, उन्होंने 150 स्कोर किया था। इयान बॉथम वाज द कैप्टन देयर, एंड वी लॉस्ट दैट मैच, एंड गुंडप्पा विश्वनाथ लॉस्ट हिज कैप्टनसी आफ्टर दैट। सो ये इंसिडेंट्स होंगे, लेकिन ये आपकी अपनी गट फीलिंग है। एज ए प्लेयर आप किस चीज को ज्यादा तरजीह देते हैं? आपके लिए जीतना जरूरी है या स्पिरिट ऑफ द गेम जरूरी है? आई थिंक धोनी ने भी जो डिसीजन लिया था, उन्होंने ये दिखाया था कि शायद स्पिरिट के साथ ज्यादा जाना चाहेंगे, जबकि धोनी की ओवरऑल पर्सनालिटी वैसी नहीं है। तो विश्वनाथ ने वो किया। बाकी भी बहुत से ऐसे प्लेयर्स हैं। जीत हार एक अलग चीज है, लेकिन स्पिरिट ऑफ द गेम इज डिफरेंट। बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली दैट्स नॉट द मीन। मैं अगर आप मुझे कहें कि मुझे गाली देनी है पैट कमिंस को, तो शायद वो 30-40 सेकंड तो मैं जरूर देता शुरू के, जो मेरा रिएक्शन था, लेकिन उसके बाद नहीं। अल्टीमेटली इट इज अबाउट द डिसीजन, इट इज अबाउट द नेचर ऑफ द सीरीज, कितनी फियर्सली कॉम्पिटिटिव ये सीरीज है, और जो जीतेगा फाइनली नाम उसका होगा। लोग ये सब आजकल की कंट्रोवर्सीज में, आजकल की जितना गलत क्रिकेट में हो रहा, उस सब में तो ये बहुत ही छोटी सी कंट्रोवर्सी है।
Sandeep, coming back to this game, this incident, as well as a second incident, which is basically the bodyline tactic, which Pat Cummins used against the England batters for quite some time, even ruthlessly peppering the tailenders like Broad and Anderson, and Broad got repeatedly hit on the side of his head, also on the jaw. Of course, the grill was there, but he was pretty rattled. So they basically, there was that recall of the 1932-33 series when England captain Douglas Jardine used the same tactic against the Aussies, and the great Don Bradman also failed to score. Of course, that meant he had a great fast bowler called Harold Lowood, who would go around the wicket. They had the leg trap, they had fielders in the deep, and those were the days when the pitches were uncovered. So yes, it was a different time, but Pat Cummins brought everything back. I still remember KP sitting in the comm box and saying, "Oh, this is horrible. This is not cricket." So what do you feel? This is not cricket?
No, I don't agree to that. I mean, this has been time and again through so many series across so many decades that we can see. I mean, if you have the fast bowlers, if you have that quality in them, and if the batsmen are getting rattled, at the end of the day, what is required there? What is required? There are wickets. What is required there is the psychological stance that you take on a pitch where everything is so close to winning a game. You look at the first test match, look at the score lines there. They were probably on the last day. I mean, it could have gone any way. I mean, yes, taking a point of Shekhar saying that if Bairstow would have stayed there, the match would have gone to England. I do agree. What happens at that particular point of time is that it's not about body line or anything else. It's about, do you have those 3 or 4 bowlers who can rattle the batters? Yes, I have. How do I use them? I use them to rattle them, to take them out, to probably get them into a position where they are thinking that every ball is going to be different. Now, to use that as a tactic, and let's use the word tactic in modern sport, tactics are used in so many ways now. I mean, we have spoken so much about data analytics. You think they didn't know that Bairstow wanders off from the crease? Yes, they do know that. Somebody's telling them all of that. That comes on 20, 30 years back, maybe, the times were different. Now there is so much at stake. There is so much at stake, which is going beyond commerce at some point of time. And I think we probably need to look at that before we start saying that, okay, this tactic is wrong or that tactic is right. Tactics are done by the coaches over a period of time. They are formulated not at the spur of the moment, they're formulated just before the test match even begins. So I think all of this was there for the taking.
CS, ऐसा कई बार देखा गया है बैटर्स में, खासतौर से बैटर्स की बात की जाए, जैसे कोई निक करता है पीछे और वो जानता है उसने निक किया हुआ है, कुछ लोग वॉक करते हैं, कुछ लोग वॉक नहीं करते हैं। सुनील गावस्कर साहब ने इन पास्ट में कहा था कि पहले शायद 1-2 बार मैं चला गया था, पर मैंने देखा जब राइवल्स जाते ही नहीं तो मैं क्यों जाऊं। सो देयर इज the people who walk, and I still remember Adam Gilchrist was a classic example of a very fair, very professional man who would always walk irrespective of where his team was. It is his personal call. He justified it in his mind, in the spirit of the game. When you juxtapose such incidents against what happened during the Ashes, what is your take?
It all depends from person to person. I have come across all kind of situations there, and look at, when we talk about the negative tactics or the body line or everything, what happened when we applied the same tactics against English batters when we were bowling almost negative line against South Africa so many times. Dhoni was a culprit even then. सभी बॉलर्स आ रहे हैं लेग साइड के बाहर बॉल कर रहे हैं, स्पिनर स्पेशली दे वर मेकिंग इट डिफिकल्ट फॉर एनी बैटर टू स्कोर एंड फ्रस्ट्रेट देम so that they could try and step out, they could try and different, play some silly strokes और उसके बाद विकेट दे दे. So I mean, these are the tactics. Sandeep was very right. I mean, ये वो सिचुएशन नहीं है कि जहाँ पर पुराने के आपको पता नहीं चल रहा क्या हो रहा है. यहाँ तो everything is being videographed. You know, after a over or 15 balls, कि this batsman is walking out, how frequent he is going out, इसको कैसे trap करना है. Everything is there. There is also artificial intelligence being used right now. As I was speaking to somebody who does this analytics for some cricket teams and some IPL teams. So they use a particular software जिसमें आपका 15-20 बॉल के बाद एक नेचर ऑफ योर गेम समझ आ जाता है कि आप बैट्समैन हैं, आप कहाँ पर ज्यादा खेल रहे हैं, आपकी क्या गलती हो रही है. तो इस तरह से कैलकुलेट करते हैं. दिस इज अगेन ए सॉफ्टवेयर. तो आपको कई चीजें समझ आ जाती है कि ये बैट्समैन यहाँ पर थोड़ा खराब खेल रहा है, यहाँ अच्छा खेल रहा है. बट दीज आर डिफरेंट टाइप्स. यहाँ पर अब आप ये नहीं कर सकते कि बॉडी लाइन कर रहे हैं. यू हैव सो मच ऑफ कवरेज. आपके जो सेफ्टी पैड्स हैं, आपके थाई पैड्स हैं, आपके चेस्ट पैड्स हैं, आपके सब हर तरह के गार्ड्स हैं. मीन इट्स जस्ट कोई, मैं कहूंगा कि कोई खासकर बैट्समैन, थोड़े टेल एंडर को आप डरा सकते हैं, लेकिन बैट्समैन अब कोई नहीं डरता. आपकी ना बॉडी लाइन से डर रहा है, ना किसी और बॉल से डर रहा है. अब जो इम्पोर्टेंट चीज है, आप किस तरह से अपने आप को अप्लाई कर रहे हैं. दो तरह की चीज है. एक बेनस्टोक्स की, जो बम्पर्स को भी बाहर जाकर पुल कर रहे थे, जो बम्पर्स को भी या किसी भी तरह से बॉल को स्ट्राइक कर रहे थे. दूसरे वो बैट्समैन है जो थोड़े अपने शेल में घुस जाते हैं और कोशिश करते हैं उसको डिफेंड करें. अब वो वक्त डिफेंड वाला नहीं रह गया. अगर आप डिफेंड करने लगेंगे, एक छतरी बना दी जाएगी, आपको आउट कर लिया जाएगा. यू हैव टू अटैक. एंड समटाइम्स यस, द आर्ट ऑफ लिविंग बॉल, जो कि गावस्कर साहब की जब आपने बात की थी, एक वो वक्त था जो वेस्ट इंडीज के 5 पेस बॉलर्स को, 4 तो हमेशा रहते थे, कई बार 5 खेलते थे, उन 5 बॉलर्स को वो फ्रस्ट्रेट करते थे, 221 रन बनाते थे, और वो भी जमाइका वाली विकेट. ना जमाइका की विकेट है, ना पर्थ की विकेट है. आज ये बहुत ही, मैं कहूंगा, ऑर्डिनरी ना भी हो, लेकिन ये बहुत ही सिंपल विकेट्स है जिसपे आपको बम्पर्स बहुत ज्यादा तंग नहीं करते. तो आर्ट ऑफ लिविंग भूल गया, तो आर्ट ऑफ अटैकिंग से अब अपने आप को बचा सकते हो, बट डिफेंस का और कोई तरीका नहीं है.
Sandeep, I'll come to you with a specific instance, and the specific instance is that this happened with India versus England, and Virat Kohli was the captain, and Anderson had bowled a couple of Jimmy Anderson had bowled a couple of bouncers at our tail enders, and when he came into bat, I specifically remember Virat Kohli asking Bumrah to bounce the hell out of him, which he started doing. He hit him a couple of times, which within quotes may not have been in the spirit of the game, but it was happening. And the strangest part is that Bumrah later said that Anderson was his hero. So he has no hesitation in bouncing his own hero, of course, under the diktat of the captain. So there again is a classic instance where it may not be in the spirit of the game, but like CS is repeatedly saying, in real politics, everything goes. It depends who wants to win.
I think it also depends on person to person, as we've been talking about. The captain, the player at that point of time. I think both of you probably, if you just go back a couple of decades to 87, you would very clearly remember West Indies versus Pakistan, Courtney Walsh coming into bowl. The last over in the World Cup, you had Abdul Qadir on the striking end, and you had at the non-striking end Salim Jaffer. 14 runs required of that last over. I think they took 2 singles of the first 2, and then they had a 2. Then Qadir hit a 6, and they needed 2 runs of the last ball. West Indies versus Pakistan. West Indies needed to win to go to the semi-finals. Walsh comes in, last ball, and he stops at the wicket. Jaffer has gone right up till the mid-pitch. He's gone for the run. There is no way he can come back. Walsh is looking at Jaffer and then looking back at the stumps. And then, if you all recall the way Courtney used to walk, shoulder swinging left and right, he walks back to the top of his bowling crease. Jaffer comes back into the crease, and then he bowls the ball again. Qadir smacks it. 2 runs, Pakistan win. Now, how do you balance this? Courtney Walsh didn't win the match for West Indies, but he got a carpet from the Pakistan Cricket Federation. So you want a carpet or you want a big win? I think it just boils down, as all of you are mentioning, to the person out there. Yes, everybody remembers this incident. Not many remember the match. I think how history treats this whole incident, how history treats a lot of people out there, that probably we can only know 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line when the next generations probably come in and do a discussion like this. I don't know how they will do it. Maybe the technology is going to be very, very different at that point of time. But we remember Courtney because he upheld a certain spirit. Yes, so many years down the line, as Shekhar, as you are pointing it out, the stakes have become vastly different. And it is just sometimes not because of commerce itself. It's also about geopolitics. It's also about this entire thing around baseball. How can you take baseball and then say you're going to beat Australia? Australia is going to do everything to put that baseball right up, whatever it takes for England. So I think at the end of the day, it just boils down to the personality. It boils down to the character that you are. And that's how you're going to play the game, irrespective of the situation. Whether it is Virat or whether it is Dhoni or anybody else. I think if it was Virat, I don't know if Shekhar can correct me, you can correct me. If it was Virat at that point of time in that particular match, I think he would have gone for the kick.
But Sandeep, knowing Virat, it was
Yeah.
sometimes, the aggression has actually gone too far. There were instances विराट का वो गाली देना, वो स्टाइल दिखाना, बट
true.
मुझे कई बार ये भी लगता है, मैं सीरियसली कई बार लगता था, knowing विराट from the age when I first saw him 14 or 15, and then that match where he lost his father and scored, same morning he scored 90 runs, got out LBW. It was a bad decision, harsh decision, but again keeping his emotion very calmly, and then showing all this aggression. तो मुझे कई बार ये लगता है बहुत कुछ stage managed है. But that's the way sometimes you become a character which is probably in the normal nature you are not the same one.
Yeah.
Same with Dhoni. Dhoni has played game not to the spirit of anything. The look at how CSK got involved into all these kind of controversies, but on the pitch sometimes he looked so so calm, captain cool. He got all those tags, and without showing too much of aggression, he was quite aggressive. Ajinkya Rahane, probably for me, the most aggressive captain wherever he has captain was Ajinkya Rahane. Without showing anything, he was so aggressive in his approach. So this is again a different times, different era. And probably you are right, maybe in 10 years or 15 years, people will see how they remember this match, this particular game. But again, Pat Cummins must be smiling. He's 2-0 up, 2-0 up.
But there's one point I wanted to make. Again, the balance between rule and the spirit. I mean, just go back to Djokovic, the US Open. He was so desperately wanting to win. He lashes out at a ball. The ball hits a ball girl, a woman there on the sidelines,
Yes.
and he's thrown out of the US Open. Now, there are 2-3 questions that come here. The ball, the federation out there, the ITF or the US Open organizing committee could have said, okay, fine, he intentionally didn't do it. The intent was not to hit the ball girl. The woman could have come forward and said, well, I do understand that he just lashed at the ball and I'm okay with it. Nobody said anything. Djokovic had to leave the court. The US Open dream was in tatters. The Grand Slam had gone, winning all the 4. Now, they opted for the rules when they clearly knew that Djokovic had lashed out at the ball, not out of anything else. So, this whole balance has to be a little tricky. The balance has to be somewhere where probably the people who are addressing that issue at that point of time, and in this particular moment, the video empire probably may say, okay, fine, I'll probably take a different decision. But my question here is, can he take a decision which is probably against the rule? Can he? I don't think so.
No, you can't.
Okay, gentlemen, let me come to the last point of this show, since both of you have mentioned the word baseball and we have discussed this adequately, CS and me, repeatedly, and Sandeep is today on the show. He also has strong views on baseball. Now, baseball is being tested and horribly tested, 2-0 down. And I just want to come read out a reaction from Baz McCullum. And basically he says, in the end, they made a play. They've got to live with that. We would have made a different play, but that's life. In time, we'll see, but I get the feeling that it might have an effect on them. I don't know if it's anger, but our unit is galvanized. There are times as a coach where you've got to reduce emotion because it's going to bubble over and you can make poor decisions. But there's times when you allow emotion to go because it's going to galvanize the unit. So now McCullum is depending on a strong English surge on the emotion, riding and uniting the English team after the Bairstow incident. And not for a second do I believe that they weren't united before, but this is like that additional surge. So I'll toss it to both of you gentlemen to have a go at this baseball concept and the way it has unfolded. So CS, pehle aap.
Arup, I think I always believe कि आपको baseball हो या कोई भी धोनी ball हो or anything, you got to have that kind of team with you who can implement all your tactics or whatever you plan in the dressing room. Unfortunately, this English team is very, very talented, but again, look at their bowling. Maybe Tonga is the latest one. He's bowling well, but overall, जेम्स एंडरसन या बाकी के जितने भी प्लेयर्स हैं इनके जो बॉलर्स है स्पेशली ब्रॉड की बात करें, दे आर पास देयर प्राइम. दे आर नॉट बीन एबल टू इम्प्लीमेंट द सेम. अगर बॉडी लाइन आपके अगेंस्ट आ रहा है तो जाइए और आप भी गो एंड अटैक देम, पीपल विल अप्रिशिएट. लेकिन प्रोबेबली दे आर पास देयर प्राइम. वो इम्प्लीमेंट करने की बात नहीं है. बैटर्स में भी अगर अपार्ट फ्रॉम अगर जो रूट अपनी पूरी फॉर्म में रहे, आई कुड स्टिल अंडरस्टैंड कि वो वहां पर कर सकते हैं. लेकिन गोइंग सो लेट और फिर कैप्टन का चार्ज बेन स्टोक्स और इस सब चीजों पे करना, देखिए मैच वाज ऑलमोस्ट ओवर. ये ठीक है 170 की कमाल की नॉक खेल दी, कपिल देव ने 175 किया था, लेकिन ये नॉक्स वंस इन ए लाइफ टाइम होती है. इसके बाद एक्सपेक्ट बेन स्टोक्स अगेन टू कम बैक एंड स्कोर अनदर 100. आई डोंट थिंक दैट इज गोइंग टू हैपन इन दिस सीरीज. सो पॉइंट इज आपकी वो टीम नहीं है जो बेसबॉल के जो पूरा कॉन्सेप्ट है उसको इम्प्लीमेंट कर सके. ऑस्ट्रेलियंस आर टू हंग्री. ऑस्ट्रेलियंस का प्रोबेबली बॉलिंग अटैक भी ज्यादा फ्रेश नजर आ रहा है, दो वो भी कोई यंगस्टर्स नहीं है, लेकिन उनका ज्यादा फ्रेश नजर आ रहा है. बट नाउ विदाउट नेथन लैंड, आई थिंक ही इज गोइंग टू मिस द नेक्स्ट मैच. इफ दैट हैपेंस, उनका बॉलिंग अटैक वीक होगा. अब इंपॉर्टेंट होगा कि कौन वापस आएगा, कौन उस तरह को उनकी जगह लेगा. सो फियर्स कंपटीशन होगा, सब कुछ होगा, लेकिन फाइनली टैक्टिक्स और जितनी भी आपकी जो भी बातचीत होनी है जो अंदर होती है आपकी रात को डिनर में या अगले दिन ड्रेसिंग रूम में या ग्राउंड में मैच से पहले, उस सबको इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए 11 प्लेयर चाहिए. और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के पास प्रॉबेबली 7 से 8 प्लेयर हैं जो कर सकते हैं. इंग्लैंड के पास प्रॉबेबली 4 से 5 प्लेयर्स हैं. तो वो डिफरेंस दोनों में नजर आएगा.
संदीप, फाइनल वर्ड्स.
I think as the cliche goes, I think we also probably will think and say that Test cricket is played according to conditions. Yes, you do need a team. You need a fantastic team to be able to do this consistently, whether it is against Australia, whether it is against New Zealand, which they have already done, and New Zealand has also performed extremely well at home against this very same time. But I still believe that there has to be a balance between playing cricket and entertaining the fans. At the end of the day, it's the scoreline. You can keep entertaining them as much as you want, but also to be fair, I mean, let me just take it to the side. This scoreline could have easily been 1-1 right now. Looking at the first test match and even looking at the second test match, and I think it would have been extremely fair for it to be 1-1 going into the third test. But as we have spoken about this earlier, we were doing this nice little game that we had on predictions. I still believe that Australia will probably pull through 2-1. You could probably have weather affecting a couple of test matches or one test match or probably 2 days in one game. But I think this balance probably has been distorted a little by McCullum and the great BenStokes, that you can do this consistently on any pitch, any condition, any bowler against any team. No, it doesn't work like that. Otherwise, Khwaja wouldn't be batting the way he is. Steve Smith wouldn't be batting the way he is. They would all be doing baseball and trying to beat England with baseball. They are actually batting like test batters. I don't think that's what you're not seeing from England here. And I think that's dangerous for England. Probably, I don't know what happens in the next test. My prediction for this series is 2-1. Let's see what happens.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much to both of you. And to wind up this show, just let's close on the point that while the Bairstow incident has triggered this debate between the rules of the game and the spirit of the game. So the viewers, the media, they remain very sharply divided. They are not, many don't accept that there's anything called the spirit of the game. It's like the saying ki jo jeeta wo Sikandar, so whoever wins, and that's it. So far, Australia is winning. And like CS made a very valid point that the English bowlers look tired. I totally agree, and I felt the same. Anderson at 40 is too stiff past his shelf life. So is Brody. Maybe it's time that they brought in different younger players, younger fast bowlers. And don't tell me that you can't find a spinner to replace Jack Leach. But then that we'll park for some other show. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Thank you.